Good evening, champions. Today, I didn't come to talk to the you they think they know. I came to talk to the you that's rising, the you that's about to be reintroduced. They see some people still negotiating with your past, but your destiny doesn't need permission from your history. So today I want to give you 4 power moves to reintroduce yourself, not as who you were, but as who you've decided to become. The first reintroduction you need to make, and this is critical, is to your own mindset. Before you change your bank account, before you change your audience, before you ever worry about building a business, you've got to transform the battlefield of your mind. See, a poverty mindset doesn't always mean you're broke. Sometimes it just means you're thinking too small. You're pricing yourself beneath your value. You're negotiating with mediocrity. You're sitting at tables that no longer serve the size of your calling. And let me just tell you something straight. You cannot scale what you continue to shrink. Too many people are praying for overflow while preparing for just enough. They're asking God to expand their territory, but they're still operating with the capacity of who they used to be. And if that's you, it's time to stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, what do I need to build so I never have to ask that again? You weren't designed to survive. You were designed to scale. You were built to dominate, to multiply, to take what you have and expand it beyond recognition. That's what growth does. That's what kingdom business is about. But the problem is, too many of us are still making $1 million decisions with $10 thinking. We've got champagne vision and soda pop habits. We've got wealth goals and broke behavior. And that contradiction will cost you every time. You see, when you operate from a scarcity mindset, everything becomes a threat. Every opportunity feels like a risk. Every investment feels like a loss. Every new challenge feels like a trap. But when you shift to a scaling mindset, you don't see loss. You see leverage. You don't see problems. You see potential. You don't see expense. You see expansion. That shift, it isn't a motivational speech. It's a spiritual reset. The Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Why? Because you will always behave in alignment with what you believe. If you believe money is evil, you'll repel it. If you believe success is reserved for those people, you'll disqualify yourself. If you believe you're not worthy of wealth, you'll subconsciously sabotage every door God tries to open for you. That's not humility. That's hidden pride dressed in insecurity. A scaling mindset doesn't just think bigger, it behaves differently. It refuses to allow temporary circumstances to dictate long-term strategy. It understands that money is a tool, not a God. It recognizes that growth isn't just what you make, it's what you multiply. Listen, God never told you to stay small to stay safe. He told you to be fruitful and multiply. That means if you're just maintaining, you're missing the mission. And let me speak to the entrepreneurs in the room. You cannot scale a business when you think like an employee. Employees exchange time for money. Entrepreneurs create systems that print value. Employees wait for orders. Visionaries create offers. The scarcity mindset says, let me play it safe. The scaling mindset says, let me play it smart. Scarcity says, what if I fail? Scaling says, what if I succeed and I'm not ready? Scarcity says, people won't pay that. Scaling says, the right people are waiting for someone who believes enough to charge that. You see, when you change your mindset, you don't just change your money. You change your marketing. You change your message. You change your movement. Because now you're not selling from survival. You're selling from service. You're not pricing based on your fear. You're pricing based on your value. One of the greatest lies you believed is that more money comes from working harder. No, more money comes from thinking higher, from designing smarter systems, from understanding leverage, delegation, automation, and transformation. Wealthy people don't hustle harder. They solve bigger problems for bigger pay. You can't build a high-ticket business with a low-tick mindset. You can't scale excellence while you're tolerating average. And you can't attract abundance while operating in fear. Fear makes you shrink, faith makes you scale. And this shift, this new mindset, it doesn't begin when the money shows up. It begins when you start speaking and walking like the person who already has the responsibility of wealth. It begins when you show up to meetings with confidence. Not arrogance, but divine clarity, because you know your offer solves a real problem. You know your gift is an answer to someone's prayer. And you know that playing small no longer honors the call on your life. So stop explaining your value to people committed to misunderstanding your mission. Stop lowering your price to match someone else's budget. And stop reducing your dream to fit someone else's comfort zone. There you are the one. You are the brand. You are the solution. But before the world can meet that version of you, you have to reintroduce yourself. And that starts not with your words, but with your mindset. So fix your thoughts and watch everything else follow. One of the biggest lies you've ever believed is that your value comes from what you do. That if you're not grinding every hour of the day, you're not producing. That if you're not chasing clients, you're not succeeding. But let me ask you something deeper. What if your greatest value doesn't come from what you do, but from what you already know? See, you've been conditioned to think that your experience isn't enough, that your past only matters if it came with a title, a certificate, or somebody else's approval. But let me remind you, you've got receipts. You've walked through storms and lived to tell the story. You've solved problems most people couldn't even recognize. You've gained skills through the fire. And those skills, when packaged right, are more valuable than gold. You keep looking for a new product, a new business, a new opportunity, when in reality, you are the product. Your wisdom is the service. Your journey is the value, and your testimony is the transformation someone else is praying for. Now, let me tell you why this is important. Because the market doesn't pay for information. It pays for organized transformation. The world is drowning in information. They can Google facts, search YouTube tutorials, or read free blogs all day. But what they can't Google is your voice, your story, your system, and your solution. That's where your value lives, not in what you've been through, but in how you've made sense of it. Let's be real. Most people undervalue themselves because they've never sat down and audited their true experience. They've never looked back at their struggles through the lens of solutions. But if you slow down long enough to trace your steps, you'll discover a blueprint hiding inside your pain. You'll find a framework in your frustration. And that's what the marketplace is hungry for. Not just a product, but a pathway. See, when you know how to package what you know, you no longer compete on price, you command it. Because now you're not just offering time. You're offering a proven transformation, something someone would gladly pay for if you positioned it right. Think about this. There are people out there who would pay you $5,000, 0 cents, or $10,000, 0 cents, just to avoid the mistakes you made for free. But they can't pay you for what you haven't packaged. They can't buy what you haven't built. They can't access what you've been hiding because you didn't think it was valuable. And that's the tragedy of a broken mindset. It makes you believe that only experts with fancy degrees or viral platforms deserve to get paid. But let me tell you something. People don't want perfect. They want real. They want results. They want someone who's actually lived it, not just someone who read about it. But let me be blunt. If you've been through something and you figured out how to get through it, and now you can teach someone else how to do the same, you're qualified. But knowledge alone isn't enough. You've got to package it. You've got to create a clear system, a tangible offer, a step-by-step transformation that someone can follow, whether it's coaching, consulting, a course, a workshop, a book, or a program. The format is up to you, but the packaging, that's non-negotiable. Why? Because confused buyers don't buy. Vague offers don't sell. If your value isn't clear to you, it will never be clear to them. And when it's not clear, the default answer is always no. So start by asking yourself, what problem have I already solved for myself? What steps did I take, not just one time, but consistently? What part of my journey could help someone else avoid the pain I experienced? How can I turn that into a repeatable process? That right there is your intellectual property. That's your business in disguise. That's what separates people who hustle for every dollar from those who build legacy through scalable transformation. And let me tell you something even deeper. When you fail to package your value, you are not just losing income, you are delaying someone else's breakthrough. You are keeping your wisdom locked in your head while people are out here struggling with problems you already solved. That's not humility, that's disobedience. Because God didn't bring you through the fire just so you could sit in silence. He brought you through to lead others out, to become the bridge, the voice, the light. It's not just business, as purpose. So today, you need to reintroduce your value, not as an opinion, not as a hobby, but as a solution, a result, a vehicle of transformation. Stop discounting your story, start documenting your system. Because when you begin to see your experience as valuable, the market will follow your lead. And if you don't know how to package what you know, start with this, teach it once, record it, write it down, turn it into steps. That's your first draft of a product. Then offer it. Let someone pay you for your perspective, not because you need the money, but because they need the momentum. Because the day you finally own your value is the day everything changes. Not just for your income, not just for your brand, but for your impact. So don't wait to be validated. Don't wait to be discovered. Reintroduce yourself as the answer, as the asset, as the value, and let the world finally meet the version of you that's been ready all along. There is one powerful truth that too many entrepreneurs, creators, and coaches ignore. You don't get paid for your ideas, you get paid for your offers. An idea in your head doesn't bless anybody. A skill you haven't packaged can't set anyone free, and a solution you're afraid to sell will never change a single life. We've been taught to work hard, to be humble, to avoid being too salesy, and that's why too many brilliant people are broke. Because while you're overthinking, someone else is offering. While you're hiding, someone else is helping. And while you're worried about rejection, someone else is making impact and income, because they're not afraid to show up with their offer. So let me say this as plainly as possible. An offer is not a product. An offer is a promise of transformation. A product is just what you sell. An offer is the outcome you deliver. And if you're in business, if you're in purpose, then your number one job is not just to have something to sell. Your job is to make the offer boldly, clearly, consistently, and unapologetically. Okay? You can't help the people you refuse to invite into the solution. You can't transform someone's life with potential alone. If you want to make more impact, if you want to build wealth, if you want to fulfill your God-given assignment in the marketplace, you have to make more offers. Now, here's the lie most people believe. I don't want to seem pushy. Listen, pushy is when you pressure someone into something they don't need. But powerful is when you invite someone into something that can solve their real, painful, present problem. That's not pushy, that's purposeful. Imagine someone drowning, and you're standing on the shore with a life raft in your hand, and you say, well, I don't want to seem too aggressive, so I'll just wait until they ask. That's not humility, that's negligence. Your offer solves a problem, then you have a moral responsibility to put it in front of as many people as possible. But here's the next part. The offer has to be clear. A confused customer doesn't buy. A vague promise doesn't convert. So many people are passionate but unclear. They talk about their product, but not about the promise. They explain the features, but not the future. The offer creates clarity, closes, clarity sells, clarity brings freedom, not just for your customer, but for you. So what does a strong offer look like? It answers three questions. What problem do you solve? For whom? What is the result they can expect? You're not just selling coaching, you're offering clarity and confidence. You're not just offering fitness training, you're offering transformation and freedom. You're not just teaching financial literacy, you're offering peace of mind, legacy building, and generational shift. Here's the key. You need to make the offer over and over again. One offer won't build a business. One post won't build momentum. One webinar won't change your income. You have to build a system of offers. Front end, back end, high ticket, low ticket, all aligned with one purpose. transformation. Myron Golden says it like this: the more offers you make, the more money you make. But more importantly, the more offers you make, the more lives you change. Well, let that sink in, because you're not just offering a product, you're offering a way out, a breakthrough, a new beginning. And every time you withhold your offer, you delay someone else's destiny. That's why I say, don't just sell, serve through your selling. Selling is serving. Marketing is ministry. Sales is not something you do to someone. It's something you do for someone. And when your heart is right, when your motive is pure, when your product is real, then sales becomes sacred. But let's address something else: rejection. Some of you stop making offers because someone said no. You internalize the no as a reflection of your worth instead of a simple response to a specific offer in a specific moment. Let me tell you something. No doesn't mean never. It means not now. You're not here to chase acceptance. You're here to offer transformation. So if someone says no, bless them and keep moving, because someone else is waiting to say yes, but they can only say yes to what you put in front of them. And if you're not making offers, you're not building a business, you're running a hobby. And purpose doesn't pay you back at the hobby level. Purpose rewards boldness, not hesitation. So let me challenge you today. Reintroduce your offer, not the watered down version, not the safe version, the real offer, the high value, high impact, high conviction version of what you do. Package it, price it with confidence, present it with boldness, and repeat it with consistency. Because when your offer is right, when your message is clear, and when your heart is aligned, the market will respond. You don't need everyone to say yes. You just need the right people to say yes. And they're out there, but they can't find you if you're hiding. They can't buy from you if you're silent. They can't be changed by you if you're stuck waiting for perfection. It's time to stop tweaking and start offering. Stop hesitating and start inviting, because the world needs your offer, and you need to finally believe that offering it is not selfish. It's service. So go out there and make more offers that make more impact. That's how movements start. That's how income grows. That's how purpose becomes legacy. And it all starts with the courage to say, here's what I've got, and here's how it can change your life. There comes a time when you have to stop asking for confirmation and start walking in conviction. Too many people are waiting for a sign, waiting for a feeling, waiting for a door to swing wide open. But what if the only thing God is waiting on is you? What if he already gave you the assignment, the strategy, the gifts, and the green light, but you're still second guessing your own authority because you haven't reintroduced your faith? See, faith isn't just believing in God. That's entry level. Real faith is believing God believes in you, that he chose you on purpose for a purpose, that when he gave you the vision, he also gave you the grace, the anointing, and the provision to get it done. But you can't move like that when you're still treating faith like a backup plan. Faith is not the last resort, it's the launch strategy. And let's get this straight. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. That means you don't have to have it all figured out to start moving. You don't need perfect conditions to take the first step. All you need is divine confidence, the kind that says, if God said it, I believe it, and I'm moving. Because confidence isn't arrogance. Arrogance says, I can do it on my own. Confidence says, I can't do this without him, but with him, I'm unstoppable. Some of you are praying for clarity, but God is waiting for courage. You want details, God wants obedience. You want a full breakdown of how it's going to work out, but he already told you we walk by faith, not by sight. That means if you see it, it's not faith. If you can control it, it's not faith. If it feels safe, it's not faith. Faith doesn't need proof, it creates it. And the problem is, many people are hiding behind faith language while operating in fear. They say I'm waiting on God, but really, they're just afraid to fail. They say I'm praying about it, but it's been 6 months and no action. Let me lovingly tell you, God is not slow. He's strategic, and he's already moved. Now it's your turn. This is the season where God is calling you to reintroduce your faith, not just as something you believe, but as something you build with. Because when your faith is real, it produces movement, it produces action, it produces fruit. Faith without works is dead. And dead faith can't fund your dream, can't build your business, can't impact your audience. You got to stop praying small prayers while carrying a big purpose. You can't ask God to enlarge your territory while still thinking like a tenant. You weren't called to rent influence. You were called to own it. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to play safe. You were sent to disrupt the norm, to shift atmospheres, to introduce kingdom principles into broken systems. That means your business, your brand, your book, your voice. All of it must be rooted in a faith that's bigger than fear and louder than doubt. And here's the truth. Divine confidence comes from knowing who sent you. And when David stepped onto the battlefield to face Goliath, Saul tried to put his armor on him. But David said, I can't go in these. Why? Because he knew his strength wasn't an appearance. It was an anointing. He said, the same God who delivered me from the lion and the bear will deliver me from this giant. That's divine confidence, not because of his weapon, but because of who went before him. And that same God is with you. He's not calling you to build something so you can get the glory. He's inviting you to build something so he can show the world what his power looks like in your hands. So yes, the vision is bigger than you. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it requires resources you don't have. But that's the point. If you could do it on your own, it wouldn't require faith. Your faith must be so strong that it intimidates your logic. So unshakable that setbacks don't make you stop. They make you pray bigger. And let's be clear, confidence doesn't mean you won't have fear. It means you won't be led by it. Divine confidence is when you hear the fear and move forward anyway. It's when you step out, not because you have all the answers, but because you have a word. God doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be positioned, available, willing, obedient. That's where favor finds you. So this is the season to reintroduce your faith. Faith that doesn't flinch. Faith that speaks before it sees. Faith that builds in the valley. Faith that launches when it's not ready. Faith that invests when it's inconvenient. Faith that says, even if I don't feel it, I'll still move because I know who walks with me. Because when you move with divine confidence, doors don't just open, realms shift. Atmospheres respond, resources locate you, people are drawn to you. Why? Because heaven backs boldness. This isn't just about believing in God. This is about moving like someone who knows God believes in you. So lift your head, square your shoulders, speak with authority, build with conviction, move with faith. Not later, because the world doesn't need another hesitant dreamer. It needs a faith-filled finisher. So today I challenge you, reintroduce your mindset, reintroduce your value, reintroduce your offer, reintroduce your faith. Let the world meet the you who doesn't wait to be picked. You picked yourself. You don't wait to be discovered. You decide to be declared. Because when you reintroduce yourself to the world, you're not just showing up differently. You're showing up as the answer. Thank you, and God bless you on your journey to greatness.